Hi everyone. Good morning. I'm going to talk about getting better results from marketing. Before I begin, I'd like to ask how many of you in the audience are working in a marketing capacity? Show of hands, please. Fair number. Okay. Of you who answered, how many are tasked with driving revenue? Okay. How many of you guys are in therapy? All right, I'm from Natural Intelligence. We do intent marketing, and I want to share a little bit about the relationship we learned between user intent and driving revenue from marketing. Okay, so there is a significant requirement out there to drive revenue. Over 2/3 of CEOs expect CMOs and their marketing teams to do the heavy lifting when it comes to driving revenue. It's a big requirement. Those of you who raised your hands probably feel it, and if you succeed at that task, you'll be a hero. But often, marketing teams fail. And they fail because, unfortunately, there's some nasty traps out there that can derail even the best of plans. So I want to take a look at some of the main channels that are used to generate revenue and uncover some of those traps. Okay, number one. Demographic targeting, Facebook and likes and lookalikes and all of that. That is a great tool to raise awareness and help you grow your tent. But unfortunately for us and for Facebook, it is not the silver bullet for driving revenue. When you execute demographic targeting, you risk making two big mistakes. Number one, you risk messaging people who have no interest in your product, which is inefficient but doesn't necessarily damage you. Far worse is you risk missing out on a big segment of the market that is interested in your product. Let me give you some data. Okay, here are a couple of examples. Only 31% of mobile searches for video games are in that classic male demo of men 18 to 34. So if you're targeting that classic demo, you're actually missing the majority of the market. In the skin and body care arena, over 2/3 of the most effective influencers out there are men. So if you're using females only as part of your influencer campaign, you're going into battle with less effective tools. Finally, 40% of baby product purchasers live in households without babies. Let me break that down. You're selling baby products to families with babies. You're missing half the market. So demographic targeting has its issues. What about the other big channel, search? Well, unfortunately, search is getting much more competitive and efficient, and in fact, it's just as easy to lose money in search today as it is to make money. Let's drill down. First of all, organic results are being demoted. Okay, paid ads are getting nearly half the traction. If you look at this example here, sponsored results are getting 46% of the click results. And where are the organic results? You don't see them. They're below the fold. It's like you don't exist with an SEO strategy. I mean, how many of you guys are actually going to be scrolling down to the bottom of the page to find a result? The other thing is that paid search is increasingly expensive. And if this is insurance, let's look at insurance relative to a lot of the other verticals. It's a very expensive pool to play in. And not only that, as the market gets more efficient and competitive, your prices go up, and then you'll frequently see that you're getting lower and appearing lower in sponsored results as the price goes up. So that's like a double shot of hurt. So, here's one other thing, by the way. We do a lot of search marketing. We spend a lot on PPC, and in our opinion, brand relevance is algorithmically in decline at Google and the major search engines. Okay, take a look at this example again. Where are the carriers? You don't see any insurance brands in the results here for best car insurance. And you used to, because Google has demoted brand relevance. And the thing is that that is probably justified because user behaviors and preferences have changed. So, okay, demographic targeting, not so sexy. Search trend, not our friend. The strategy for success, it's not just to diversify and be visible across the largest channels. It's actually something much more subtle and simple. The answer lies in understanding user intent. So we've got the rise of this new discipline called intent marketing, which is all about how users feel, how they behave, what their habits are online. Now, we did our research when it comes to understanding user patterns and behaviors. We commissioned a major study with thousands of participants. Here are a couple of big takeaways. Number one, people feel bombarded. They're overwhelmed with information. We all feel this. Easily distracted. They're making thousands of decisions a day. That's a lot to take in. There's an interesting read, by the way, by a guy named Barry Schwartz, who wrote a book called The Paradox of Choice. If you haven't read it, I recommend you look it up on TED or YouTube. He's got this counterintuitive thesis that people are overwhelmed with data and they make better decisions with fewer options. So the takeaway is 31 flavors might work well for Baskin-Robbins, but as a strategy, I wouldn't recommend it. The more options people have, the more apprehensive they actually become about making a decision. This is why your 401k plans today frequently come with a default suggested portfolio. You don't have to sweat it. And this is true to such an extent that overchoice is now recognized as a cognitive disorder. Okay, second thing we learned is that people value their autonomy in the decision-making process. Okay? They want to feel like they've done some type of research and have arrived at an independent decision before they engage with all of you. Okay? They want to feel like they've made a fact-based, objective decision independent of outside influence. And, I'm sorry to say, they don't trust branded marketing or ads as much as they used to. In the display biz, they say users are banner blind. So I feel like the messenger of bad news. I'm giving you one bad piece of information after another, like the president would say. That's just terrible and sad. But the good news is that there are some distinct patterns and habits in user behaviors. Okay? Just like the peacock getting ready for the big game, users will signal when they're ready to make a purchase. So Google has mapped, using AI, they've mapped 70 million signals in search. That's a lot to contend with. So let's look at 3 of them. The first, let's start with user intent. The first issue is when a user intends to access something specific. They send what's called a navigational signal. Okay, so they will type in the name of a specific insurance carrier or the name of the app for this conference, for example. The second type of search is when a user wants to learn something. They send an informational signal. Okay, what is the weather in Chicago today? They'll enter a search term as a query. And the third type of signal is when a user wants to do something or buy something. They send a transactional signal. And that's a signal with an action word or a lot of superlatives laden in there, like cheapest auto insurance or get cheapest auto insurance. So let's do something interesting now and consider the level of a user's purchase intent and map it against various levels of brand affinity, brand consideration. So we got it here, high purchase intent on the right, high brand consideration up at the top. What's interesting is that there are distinct signals and an effective marketing strategy for various regions on this graph. Let's point out a couple of big ones, if we can. The first is a user may have low or high purchase intent, but they have high brand consideration, okay? A user sends the navigational signals that we talked about a moment or two ago, okay? They're going to enter the name of a search term as a query. This is very intuitive, straight up the middle. The strategy for winning here is you stick with what works. Your branded search, your branded content that you all know and love. Easy peasy, okay? The next scenario is a little bit more tricky. The user wants to learn something, okay? So they will engage with you. They may have interest, but they don't have high purchase intent, okay? The user is sending informational signals, and you can win with these users as well. But you need a more comprehensive strategy, okay? You need to execute both on and off your domain with things like SEO and APIs to your data and thought leadership and PR. And, you know, at the end of the day, you guys are, a lot of you are doing this very well. But I gotta say, I think you're investing a lot of resources and energy for what is effectively a low intent user. Now finally, you have a high intent purchaser with a low level of brand consideration, okay? So a user is sending a transactional signal, and they, what you have here, this here is the marketing blind spot, okay? This user they want what they want as fast, quick, cheap, and as painlessly as possible. And you can win here with these users as well. But you need to start by focusing off your domain in places like comparison charts, user-generated websites, user-generated content, content reviews, that sort of thing. Okay, now you might think that all of those areas are equally valuable, but it turns out that the blind spot is crazy big. Here's some data, okay? If we look at the top 5 searches for the biggest car insurance, for the most searched for car insurance brands last month in June, Progressive Insurance, we had 272,000 searches online. That's a big number. But if you take the top 5 non-branded searches, you get almost 4 times the number. So if you choose to focus only on your brand and your content and you ignore that blind spot, you're going to have a tough run driving up ROI. So let's bring it home. We've established there's a significant blind spot, and by focusing on it, you have an ample opportunity to drive up revenue. Marketers need to go beyond their comfort zones, go to where the users are, and once you're there, you need to understand their signals and respond accordingly so you can help them in their decision-making processes. At the end of the day, users are going to compare. And as brands, you cannot afford to be absent from that critical stage of the customer journey. So I want to thank you guys for being a great audience. If you're interested in acquiring high-intent users, I'd be happy to chat or reach out to me. There's also a couple of colleagues of mine in the audience today from Natural Intelligence. Thank you. We've got a great show ahead. So up next, I'd like to introduce Tim Attia, who is the CEO of Slice Labs.